Today I'm going to talk about composting. Hopefully I can encourage you to become a composter with your food scraps and your leaves and everything else that you can compost with a composting bin or a worm bin. So enjoy the video! Well, hello. Today we're going to talk about composting. And I think my opinion is that everyone that eats should compost, because there's no reason why we should be throwing our food scraps and give them to the landfill when we can make our own rich organic soil or fertilizer for our plants and gardens. And I'm going to give you a quick example of things you can do to start composting. What you can do is get yourself a container, start off small, drill some holes in it, add your browns, which is your carbon, or your greens, which is your nitrogens, which is your food scraps, and you can compost that way. You don't have to make it difficult, you just keep it simple. And things that you can use for composting is you can use leaves for your browns or greens for your vegetable scraps for your nitrogen. And on that note, I'm gonna tell you why compost stinks, and that's the big thing that people get nervous about. And if you have say you have grass and you just put it into a bag and let it sit, it's gonna stink, because there's no airflow and there's no nitrogen and carbon ratio to eliminate the smell. So there's a term that we use for the smell in composting bins. It's either aerobic or anaerobic. And aerobic means, let me give you an example. If I tell you to open up your hand and I put a quarter into your hand and you leave it open, that means it's aerobic. And that allows air and anything else to move around in your hand. It can allow good bacteria and other microbes to enter your hand. And now, anaerobic is the same scenario. You open up your hand, I put a quarter in it, and I tell you to close your hand. Now that means it's anaerobic, because there's no airflow that can get into your hand. There's no way that anything can get into your hand, and that's what causes your compost bins to stink, because they're anaerobic. So instead of it being anaerobic, you want it to be aerobic. A couple things you do not need when you compost. Some people use thermometers to find out how hot their compost is, but if you add more browns to your greens and then you add water, it is going to get hot and start breaking down. And the more you start to turn it and keep it moist, it will break down a lot quicker. If you just put your leaves or your paper or your food scraps into a container and let it just sit with the lid open and airflow, it will break down, but it will take a lot longer to break down. So the more you turn it, the quicker your compost will break down. Another thing you don't need is they call it some compost starter. Don't waste your hard-earned money on that. You don't need any added extra ingredients to get your compost started, because once you get your compost, you get your leaves, your browns, and your greens, a handful of dirt, and then you throw some water on top, you got your compost started right there. And that's the way you're going to save your money. I've been composting for over 5 years, and I have never ever used a thermometer or I've ever bought any bought any compost starting fluid because I don't need that. And it's easy. The thing that makes it crazy is because we're the ones that overthink it. Just keep it simple. And also, people want to go to landfills and pick up their compost. You got to be careful because you don't know what is in that compost at the landfill. Yeah, it is compost, but there could be all types of chemicals that is on that compost, and you can be applying that into your garden beds. So be very careful when it comes to getting compost from the landfill. That's why I'm saying it's best for you to make your own compost because you know what's going in and what's going out, and that way it'll be your own healthy, rich black gold. And then another term for composting is vermicomposting, and that's when you use red wigglers. And it doesn't matter what size your house is, what apartment you live in, or anything, because you can start a worm bin with no problem. Start it off basic. Get yourself a Rubbermaid tote. Drill some holes in it for air on the top. A couple small holes on the bottom. Get yourself some shredded newspaper, not the glossy section. Get that wet. Add a few food scraps. Put a little dirt in there to get it started. Add a little water to get it to the consistency of a wrung out sponge. Get yourself some worms and put them in there. And the worms have to be the red wigglers, European night crawlers, African night crawlers, or blue worms, because those are the good composting worms. And all you have to do once you get that started is just place it underneath your sink or someplace out of the way. Don't worry about your worms. Check on them about every 2 weeks. Your food scraps will start going away, and then you add more food scraps, and then your worms will produce some worm castings, which is also some rich black gold as well. That's the thing about composting. We overcomplicate it. Like I said, it's not hard. We just have to keep it simple. When it comes to like a regular composting bin, just add more browns, which is your carbons, and to your nitrogen, your food scrap ratio, and that will allow your food scraps to break down. There's a few ideas that I'm going to put in the description box, so check them out. And there's also some composting containers that you can use. They have a charcoal filter, and that will help to eliminate any type of odor inside of your house. Composting is a great thing. When it comes to composting, you see the results. Science is awesome. But I just want to say, start composting. There's no reason why we all that eat food scraps, eat food every day, should have no reason not to compost. It all starts with one person. I'm doing these videos, trying to encourage you. So if I can get at least one of you viewers to start composting, my job is completed for that day. And then you just start sharing the wealth and the knowledge that you have, and the world will be a better place. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I just want to say thank you for your time to check it out. If you like what you're hearing from me, subscribe to my channel, give this video a like, share it, and you guys have a great day. Bye.